Let's move over to the ACC and talk about, if it wasn't for Ole Miss beating Georgia, this would have been the upset of the day. Just the second time since 1936 that Georgia Tech has beaten a top 5 ranked opponent. They beat Miami at home 28-23. The headline for this one, Garrett, Miami's luck finally runs out. We had been talking about, well, winning is a skill, and Miami's figured out how to do that. And so we do have to give it to them, but there's no doubt the defense has been leaky at best this year. They had given up at least 31 in 4 of their previous 5 games coming in. And for Cam Ward, the magic just kind of ran out, right? The team didn't make those 2 or 3 plays that had flipped the script on opponents in weeks past. It felt like you could see the writing on the wall here. If not Georgia Tech, at some point during the season, Miami was going to drop one of these.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we had talked, and I've joked about it being home cooking for them, and they've been getting some calls to bail them out. Didn't get them today. Wouldn't have mattered anyways, because Georgia Tech looked like the better team today. It didn't look like a fluky, weird upset. Like, Georgia Tech just dominated. They dominated in the run game. Miami runs for 88 yards. Georgia Tech runs for 271. That's a statistic to point to if you need it. You really want to talk about how embarrassing this should be. Georgia Tech won throwing for 99 yards. They threw the ball 16 times as a team for 99 yards. And, a couple of touchdowns, that's nice, but this was not a passing attack for Georgia Tech. This was let's just put our nose, in a gap. Let's put our, hat on a hat, and let's just go win our space, right? Win what we need to. They did it. They took care of business. Couple of gutsy third down conversions in there as well. Yep. And they just found a way to do it. They were the better team today. And this was a gut check for Miami. They had been able to skate through a pretty weak schedule at this point. Hadn't really looked all that impressive doing it against a couple of teams recently. And now they got to go find a way to finish the season, because their margin for error in an ACC conference that is not necessarily that impressive has just gone down to 0. They cannot drop another game. They have to win out. They have to win their conference.
The nice thing for Miami, and, folks were very quick to point out, well, this doesn't actually mean anything for Miami. So far as it eliminates them from the ACC title race, of course not. They're still sitting now in second place. All it really does is elevate SMU into sole possession of first place, which, how about the Ponies?
It does open up a potential tiebreaker scenario, though.
But it does do that. It does do that. It means that Miami has to win out. And, they still have a path to get to Charlotte. There's still a path to get to the playoff. But I also think the committee that worked overtime to advocate for them in this first round of the playoff rankings, it undid a lot of hand-wringing by those in Grapevine earlier this week. And I think what it does is it exposes the flaws of this team. The front 7 for Miami got worked today. I mean, the run schemes from Brent Key's team were beautiful. The counters on repeat, both of the quarterback and the running back variety, Miami had no way to stop that. And so it allowed them to win that ballgame, control that ballgame, run the clock out, really in all 4 quarters, and dictate the pace of play inside Bobby Dodd. Trey, I'll ask you, Miami is still very much in the running, but given what you saw today, contender or pretender for the Canes?
I think you got to say pretender, especially not just today. It's really easy to say that today with the loss to Georgia Tech, but you guys said it. This was a long time coming. This was weeks in the making. They've been squeaking games out, maybe getting some help from officiating in some of them, questionable officiating, but this was a long time coming. I think it's clear now that this was not a fluke, and it should have happened a few weeks ago, and we shouldn't even be maybe even considering it at this point. But they still have a path because of the auto bids. So they will have a chance to get in, and they do have enough talent to win a game or 2 if they get in and the matchup is correct. But as far as a true national championship contender goes, I have a hard time saying that right now.
I think if Miami had shown the ability to play some shutdown defense, I would chalk this up as their 1. right? They're not eliminated, but boy, you learn a bunch of lessons, you improve on them, you go forward. But they haven't shown that ability to play solid defense, to get off the field consistently and win in other ways than just winning a shootout. And I think that's what really concerns me for this Miami team. That, and there were, again, a couple of errors from Cristobal and staff. Situational awareness felt like it was at a low again. And you would have thought that this staff would have been primed, right? You lost in one of the stupidest ways in college football history last year to Georgia Tech. You would have thought everybody would have been dialed this week. Wasn't quite the case. His post-game press conference saying, well, we did the little things right, but we need to do them better. Very uninspiring post-game press conference. I'm out on Miami. I've got them as pretenders as well.
Yeah, your case in point there is calling a timeout coming out of the 2-minute at the end of the fourth quarter. And that was on a punt. So, on punt, what you basically got to say there in the 2-minute is, don't let up the fake. But apparently forgot to say that. So needed to sprint down the sidelines with his hands waving. It didn't end up mattering because they fumbled. And so it, obviously didn't end up mattering to the end result. But, that could have ended up costing them in a situation where they might need to stop them later on. But, ultimately just better team wins today in Georgia Tech.
Elsewhere in the ACC, you had Clemson winning 24-14, a very slow and kind of wishy-washy game between Clemson and Virginia Tech. Virginia hangs on to beat number 18 Pitt, so the Panthers have officially ejected from the ACC and playoff contention. It was fun while we knew you. I guess they were 7-0, and they've lost back-to-back weeks. Boston College beats Syracuse. Duke beats NC State, and then Chase and I had to do a double take when we saw the final score. Notre Dame 52, Florida State 3. The Noles are now 1-9. It's just the third time in program history that Florida State has ever had at least a 9-loss season. Brutal scene for Florida State. Trey, any other takeaways from the ACC here today?
Yeah, a lot of Boston College got a great win. Syracuse, I didn't get to see a ton of this game. I checked in a couple times, but great win for Boston College. And Cal got their first win as an ACC program, first ACC win on Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night over Wake Forest, but shootout, 46-36 over the Demon
Good
Deans.
job going across the country getting it done.
That's right. Clemson, I guess for what it's worth, out of the ranked teams still technically alive, they're 6-1 in the ACC play, right? Unfortunately, we don't get to see them play Miami, so they will need help to get to Charlotte.
Well, it's gonna be a tiebreaker. I have no idea who has the advantage if both of them go 7-1. I will tell you, I have no idea who has the advantage in the tiebreaker in that scenario.
I would imagine. I guess. Yeah. I don't know what the mathematical.
We'll do some research. We'll talk about it on
formula is. Yeah, what the order of operations is. But from everything that I read today, Miami still is in the driver's seat to get to Charlotte. So what metric that is, I don't know off the top of my head, but we'll get back to you. Maybe we'll talk about that on the Tuesday show, Trey, that y'all will fire up for the rankings.
Gracious him. How about that?